Hey guys, welcome to a very exciting Saturday, and this game is played between Alphazero against Alphazero, and there are some rules of this game. There is no castling, and Alphazero gets 100 seconds per move, so it is a pretty long and pretty interesting game where a powerful engine is playing against itself, and you are going to see some high quality chess because Alphazero calculates more than probably 40 moves ahead and then makes a move, so it calculates all the variations. And an interesting comment by Alphazero team was that during its practice sessions, Alphazero gets less than 1 second to make a decision. So Alphazero has a fraction of a second to make decisions, and only then within that fraction of a second it has to play a move. So while this practice games were being played, 33% were won by white, 23% of the games were won by black, and 44% of the games ended up in a draw. And Alphazero team got a lot of time to practice this because there is no castling allowed in this particular game that Alphazero is playing against itself, and this is something interesting variation that Alphazero is trying, and it's just trying to develop something new in chess, something exciting in chess, and they want to bring a lot more people, getting a lot more support, and so they want to create something new, something interesting. Or when you have the no castling move, you have to think outside of the box. You cannot rely on the standard theory that has been developed and all the players know all the moves. So the first 20-25 moves are usually blitzed out by the players because they know the entire variations. And once you play long enough, you guys will know those variations as well. So they want to create something new, and that's why this thing was brought into picture. So let's just get into it. Alphazero has the white pieces and Alphazero has the black pieces. Let's start with e4. This was the first move chosen. c6, d4 and d5, and this was the move that was chosen. This is the last book move. From here on, Alphazero has to continue on its own. And pretty interesting that this is the Caro-Kann variation, so I was pretty excited when I saw this. And knight to c3 was played. Pretty standard move. After which d takes e4 was played, and this is the exchange variation from the black side, which is usually not preferred. Black will prefer to put the white piece, bring the white bishop out on this diagonal. You'll usually put it on this f5 square, and then you will have this pawn that is being pushed forward. You will get a knight here. You will get this bishop that comes out, or you can have this bishop that goes and hides in this corner. If white develops the bishop to d3, then this bishop gets traded off, and you have a pretty amazing position. This knight usually comes here, the queen can come here or to this square. You usually have castles on the king side or the queen side, depending on wherever you want. So it's a pretty standard move for black, but this is exchange variation, and this is something different. It has been played before by all the players in the standard games as well, but people don't really prefer in the regular chess. But because this is no castling, regular chess doesn't apply. Regular chess rules don't apply, or standard theory doesn't apply. So you have knight takes e4, and now knight to f6. Knight to c3, going back, not really allowing it to have some tension. And now e6, again, pretty weird move because now you're blocking this bishop from getting out, and this is still a Caro-Kann defense. So how are you going to develop this bishop? You have to develop it via this square, or you have to put it on this d7 square, which you don't really know what the purpose is. But because this is Alphazero playing the pretty high level chess, you cannot really doubt why it's doing this. You have bishop to e3, and now queen to c7. Again, a pretty weird move because first you would like to develop your pieces and castle, but because this is no castling, maybe that's why Alphazero is playing, because when you don't castle, when you're not allowed to castle, that means your king is stuck in the center till you make the moves, make some king moves, and you have to give up some initiative. That's true for both the players though. I mean, it's not like the black king isn't going to be safe, but the white king can castle, so there is no point in going by standard theory. And this is immediately putting some pressure on this h2 pawn. You have h4 quickly getting out of the way, and these days pretty standard move is whenever h4 is played, you would like to play h5. It's very typical these days because you don't want to allow this expansion, and then this rook will come into the game via h4. He will control the nice 4th rank. Whenever the rook wants, the rook can come into this f file, g file, or even support these central pawns, and you can attack the king very nicely. But in this game, Alphazero, who's on the black side, doesn't really go for h5. He goes for knight b to d7. And you have a4. This is pretty interesting. Now, who has a pawn structure like this? Which human will prefer a pawn structure like this? Nobody. I don't think anybody has preferred, or I have not seen this in the history of chess. Maybe there are a few games that I have not seen. Of course, I have not seen everything. But as a human, you would still not want to have a white's position. You would probably feel like, okay, black I can nicely develop, and then I can castle, but again, no castling. So the king is not going on the either side of the board anytime soon. So it's okay to play such moves like h4, a4, and you will have nice control over these squares. So pretty interesting idea and pretty interesting position, which is why this variation or this game has been played. No castles, and you have 100 seconds per move. Now, also pretty interesting that I would wanted to show you was h5. This allows this rook to be put on h4, control this nice file. But of course, Alphazero thought that having a pawn pretty forward here on h5 is not really a good idea. So he went, it went directly for a4. Now you have h6, not playing h5, but h6, probably trying to counter this pretty forward move on h4 with this g5 idea. But who knows? That's why we have to take everything into consideration when an Alphazero is playing. It's pretty high-level chess. And you have knight to f3. Now you get a6, and this probably is preparing for a b5 push, because now you have nice control over the square, and you simply get bishop to c4, developing the bishop, egging this pawn to be pushed forward. But that was not played in the game. We have bishop to d6. Again, keeping some nice control over the square, but what is the reason behind keeping the control over the square or this diagonal? It's not really clear, because this king is not going here anytime soon. So what's the reason behind this move? And if any of you guys are aware of it, please let me know, because I'm curious as well. I couldn't really find a reason for this particular move. You have king to f1, now getting king into a safer position. You have b6, pushing the pawn just one forward, not really going to b5 and attacking the bishop, which is what a human would have played. Now you simply have queen to e2 and bishop to b7. You have rook to e1, and here both sides are playing developing moves. All pieces are now developed. Here, if I was in black's position, I would love to castle on the queen side, have a wonderful position from there on, and I mean, I can even castle king side. It's not really an issue. But queen side would definitely be safer, since a lot of my pieces are guarding the king. And this was not played in the game, so let me just remove that move. And after rook to e1, you simply have king to e7, trying to get king to safety by connecting these two rooks. Now these two rooks, either of the rooks can come to either of these squares, and then the king is going to go in the opposite direction. But for now, it's staying here on e7. You have bishop to d2, a pretty interesting move. Now you have opened up a nice attack on this pawn, because three of the pieces are attacking it, and you simply get rook h to e8. Not really worrying about any of the attacks, because if you capture, you can get pawn captures, and simply after queen captures, you're just gonna play this king back here to f8, and you're going to attack the queen, indirectly attacking the rook as well. So it's not really a good idea to capture on this e6 square. And you have g4, pretty interesting position. And now what happens if you capture this pawn here on g4? I'm just going to show you that variation. If you capture, then that is a slight mistake, because now you simply get rook to g1. Now you're attacking this knight, and you're also attacking this backward g pawn. Once the g pawn falls, this pawn is going to be really weak. So you cannot really move this knight from here, and you have to protect the knight. So you have to bring the other knight into the game. You have to play knight to f6, defending this knight. But now what you get is simply this knight from f3 will jump here to e5, and now your knight is attacked multiple times. And if you just simply capture, then you're simply going to get pawn captures. You are now attacking two pieces, and this is complete advantage black. So back in this position, after g4, you cannot really capture this pawn here. So pretty amazing position. And because it was Alphazero, and it has 100 seconds to calculate, it calculates precisely and plays c5, and again, pretty interesting position here, because you get d5 next, pushing the pawn even forward, and now you close down this bishop's attack on this rook. Again, it's not really moving this rook, because Alphazero knows that he's going to push this pawn forward, and then his rook will be defended. If it was a human, in a few moves back, when the king is already, your rook is here, your king is not really, it's on f1 due to some reason, then you would either prefer the rook to go to h2, not really h2 because this bishop is attacking it, but to g1, and then control this nice file, g file. But by playing d5, this entire diagonal is closed off, unless and until you capture this pawn here. We don't really get captures, but we have king to f8, getting the king to safety. Now you have d takes e6, and now b5. Again, pretty interesting position, a pretty interesting move, because now you have to play, there is no other alternative but to play a takes b5, and now you get knight to b6. And why is this knight to b6 important? Because now you're directly attacking the bishop. What happens if you play b takes a6? Because say your bishop is nicely defended, now you won't really get this knight captures, but you will get bishop takes f3 first. So you have to capture this bishop, and once the bishop captures, then you will get this knight captures on c4, and you're also attacking this bishop, so bishop goes to c1, and then rook takes a6. Again, this is completely an equal position, and this is fine for both the players as well. So this was not played after knight to b6, not really capturing, but playing g5, and this is attacking the knight and also attacking this pawn here. So looks like both the Alphazeros are nicely attacking and also defending at the same time. Pretty amazing chess. Now you have knight takes c4 and simply queen takes c4, and pretty fine position. You have bishop takes f3 and rook to g1. Now you are not immediately capturing, although that would be a mistake, because I'm just going to show you this variation. If you have to go back a move, and if you capture this knight here, then you simply get bishop takes h1 here, because your rook was under attack. So you have to play, after bishop takes f3, you have to play rook to g1 first, and now you are nicely attacking this knight. So h takes g5, h takes g5, and now knight to g8. And again, this was the best move, because in this position you have only two moves. Either you have to go back, or you have to go to this h5 square. And I'm going to show you that variation. Knight to h5, queen to d3. Now you are nicely controlling this diagonal, and most importantly the h7 square. Bishop to b7, and now b6. You're pushing the pawn forward. You cannot really capture because that would be a great mistake. And again, let's just go for it. I'm going to show you the variation, what happens after you capture. This is complete advantage white, and now you simply get queen to f5. Then you would get rook takes e6, and you simply have rook takes e6. Then you would get bishop to c8, and this would be a completely fine position even though you are attacking the rook and the queen. This is queen to d5 you can play, and even after bishop takes e6 you will get queen takes a8, and this is again a check. Completely fine position for white. And this is something weird just happened, and I have lost the voice, so let's just go back. Okay, there it is, the voice is back. You have after knight to g8 you have rook to e3 and simply bishop to h5, and now you have rook to h1. This rook is attacking the bishop, and you have bishop to g6 defending. You get rook to e3, and now rook to e7. You have knight to d5. Now after this knight move you are attacking the queen, you are attacking the rook, and also this queen indirectly then defends the pawn once this knight moves. So pretty interesting position. And simply you have queen to b7. You have e takes f7, and now this is a perfect time to capture. That's what Alphazero thinks, and he captures the pawn. You have a rook takes f7, and now simply bishop to f4. But if you go back to this position after the queen is moved, if you're wondering why isn't this rook captured, if you capture the rook, this rook is hanging, and again if you try to move away your knight, then your second rook is hanging as well, so you cannot really capture on this rook. So you have e takes f7, rook takes f7, and now bishop to f4, getting in between of these two rooks and eyeing a bishop exchange, and it's nicely defended, so you don't really have to worry about anything. You have bishop to e7 declining, and now you get b6, and if you're wondering why not this captures, then I'm going to show you that variation as well. If you go back a move, and if you play knight captures e7, then you simply get rook takes e7, and this is advantage black. Now you might ask why advantage black, because you can simply play have this check, get a check into the game, because you open a discover check, but not really, because you simply get queen takes f3, and the check is no longer valid because your piece has been captured, and you are also attacking this rook, so you have to move the rook. Rook will probably go to g8, and again you can have a completely fine position. But after bishop to e7, b6 is played, and now you have rook to d8, a pretty interesting move. You have knight to c7, and this knight is nicely guarded by the pawn. You are also not allowing the queen to come to the defense of any of these pieces, and you simply have queen takes f3. By allowing this, white basically wants to draw the game, as you probably have seen the perpetual. Now knight to e6 check, king to e8, knight to c7 check, king to f8, knight to e6 check, and king to e8. And this was the final position on board, as a draw was agreed between Alphazero and Alphazero by 3-4 repetition. And you had a pretty amazing game where for the first time no castling was allowed, and a very highly rated supercomputer was playing against itself, and they both had 100 seconds per move. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope you are enjoying this wonderful Saturday. And that's it from this game. I would like to thank all my subscribers for subscribing to the channel. I greatly appreciate your support. Namaste. See you next time.